Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the Starship Liberty, watching the endless stars through the main window. He had been exploring deep space for 2 years now, looking for new worlds and maybe new friends among the stars. His crew of 30 humans had found many empty planets, but no other thinking beings yet. "Commander, we're getting a signal," said Lisa Martinez, his communications officer. She looked worried as she listened to her headset. "It's not like anything we've heard before. Sounds like a distress call." Jake walked over to her station. "Can you tell where it's coming from?" "About 2 hours away at full speed. The signal is weak and getting weaker," Lisa said. "Sir, I think someone is in real trouble out there." Jake looked at his crew. They were all good people who had joined this mission to explore and help others. He knew what they had to do. Set course for the signal. Maximum speed. The Liberty moved through space faster than light, following the strange signal. As they got closer, Jake could see something on the main screen. It was a ship, but not like any human ship. This one was long and curved, with strange blue lights along its sides. Parts of it were broken and floating away into space. "Commander, I'm reading one life form on that ship," said Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's medical officer. "But there are 3 other ships nearby. They look different from the damaged one." Jake squinted at the screen. The 3 ships were dark and angular, with red lights that looked angry. They were moving around the damaged ship like hunters around wounded prey. "Those ships are firing on the damaged one," called out Lieutenant Ben Carter from the weapons station. "Small shots, like they're trying to disable it more, not destroy it." "Why would they do that?" Jake wondered aloud. Suddenly, the communications system crackled to life. A voice came through, speaking in a language none of them understood. But there was something in the tone that made everyone on the bridge feel sad. It sounded like someone begging Lisa. "Can you figure out what they're saying?" Jake asked. Lisa worked at her controls for several minutes. "I'm running it through our language computer. Give me a moment." Her eyes went wide as words appeared on her screen. "Commander, the computer thinks it's a plea for help. Someone is asking for anyone to save them from being captured." Jake made his decision quickly. "Ben, charge our weapons. Amy, get ready to bring someone aboard. We're going to help." The Liberty moved toward the damaged ship. The 3 attacking ships noticed them right away and turned to face the human vessel. They were bigger than the Liberty and looked much more dangerous. "They're trying to talk to us," Lisa said. "The computer is translating now. They're telling us to go away and that the damaged ship belongs to them." "Tell them we don't recognize anyone's claim to own other people," Jake said firmly, "and tell them to back off." What happened next surprised everyone. The 3 ships immediately opened fire on the Liberty. Jake's crew was ready, though, and they fired back. The human ship was smaller but faster, and Jake's crew had trained hard for situations like this. The fight lasted 20 minutes. The Liberty's weapons were not as powerful as the enemy ships, but Jake's crew was smart. They used the broken pieces of the damaged ship as cover and attacked from different angles. Finally, the 3 attacking ships gave up and jumped away to somewhere else in space. "The damaged ship is sending us another message," Lisa reported. "This time." The voice sounded different, still sad, but also confused. The computer translated the words as they came through the speakers. "Unknown vessels, I am Zixtera of the Veltare people. You have defeated my captors. I do not understand why you helped me, but I know you must be very strong. I offer myself to serve you. Please take me as your slave, and I will work for you until I die. I will be loyal and obedient. Please do not kill me." The bridge went completely quiet. Jake felt sick to his stomach. This person thought he would make them a slave. "Lisa, make sure the translation is right," Jake said. "It's correct, sir. She's offering to be our slave." Jake took a deep breath. "Open the channel. Let me talk to her." "Channel open, Commander." "Zixtera, this is Commander Jake Harrison of the human ship Liberty. We helped you because it was the right thing to do. We don't want you to be our slave. We don't believe in slavery at all. Do you need medical help?" There was a long pause before Zixtera answered. "I do not understand. You are strong enough to defeat Dominion hunters. You must want something from me. I am a good worker. I can fight for you. I can clean and repair things. Please, let me serve you. It is better than death. Jake looked at Amy, who was already getting the medical bay ready. Your ship looks badly damaged. We'd like to help you fix it. Or you can come aboard our ship where you'll be safe. You won't be a slave or prisoner. You'll be our guest. Guest? Zixthera's voice sounded even more confused. I do not know this word in this context. Are you testing me? I promise I will serve well. I will not try to escape or fight you. Amy stepped forward. Commander, I need to check on her health. Her ship's life support is failing. Jake nodded. Zixthera, we're going to bring you aboard our ship now. You're hurt and need help. We won't harm you. I promise. I understand. I will come quietly. I will not resist. 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the docking bay as a small pod from the damaged ship attached to the Liberty. When the door opened, Jake got his first look at an alien being. Zixthera was tall, maybe 7 feet, with blue-gray skin that had silver markings on it. She had 4 arms and moved with the grace of a natural athlete. Her large eyes were golden and looked very intelligent. But what struck Jake most was how she held herself. Her shoulders were slumped, her head was down, and she moved like someone who expected to be hit. She walked a few steps into the docking bay and then dropped to her knees. I am Zixthera, former warrior of the Veltari, now property of whoever claims me. You have saved me from the Dominion Hunter. I pledge my life to serve you. Commander Jake Harrison, please aid me from behind as I work for you, and I will serve you forever as your alien slave. Jake felt his heart break a little. This proud-looking being thought she had to be a slave to stay alive. He walked over and knelt down so he could look at her face to face. Zixthera, please stand up. You don't need to kneel to anyone on this ship. You're not our slave, and you're not anyone's property. You're a person, and all people should be free. She looked up at him with those golden eyes, and Jake could see she didn't believe him. She thought this was some kind of test. I will stand if you command it, she said softly. I'm not commanding anything. I'm asking you, as one person to another, to please stand up. Slowly, carefully, Zixthera stood. She was still ready to drop back down if Jake showed any sign of anger. Welcome aboard the Liberty, Jake said with a smile. Let's get you to the medical bay and make sure you're okay. Then maybe you can tell us about your people and what happened to you. As they walked through the corridors of the ship, Jake noticed that Zixthera stayed exactly 3 steps behind him. When he slowed down, she slowed down. When he stopped, she stopped. She was following him like a servant, even though he had told her she was free. This was going to be harder than he thought. 3 days after rescuing Zixthera, the Liberty arrived at New Terra, the human colony on the edge of known space. Jake had hoped the journey would help Zixthera understand that humans were different, but she still insisted on serving him. She cleaned his quarters without being asked, brought him food he didn't want, and followed him everywhere like a shadow. When the Liberty docked at New Terra's space station, Colonial Administrator Lisa Rodriguez came aboard to meet their unusual guest. Lisa was a kind woman who had helped many refugees over the years, but she had never met an alien before. So this is our first contact with another species, Lisa said, looking at Zixthera with wonder. Amazing. Zixthera immediately dropped to one knee when she saw Lisa. Greetings, superior beings. I am the property of Commander Jake Harrison. How may I serve you? Lisa's eyes went wide. She looked at Jake with concern. Jake, what did you tell her? Nothing like that, Jake said. Quickly, I've been trying to explain that she's free, but she won't believe me. She thinks we're testing her or something. Lisa knelt down to look at Zixthera face to face, just like Jake had done. Hello, Zixthera. I'm Lisa. I'm not superior to you or anyone else. We're equals. Zixthera looked confused. But you command this place. You have power over others. How can we be equals? Having a job doesn't make me better than you, Lisa explained patiently. I'm just someone who helps organize things. Please stand up and walk with us. I'd like to show you around the colony. As they walked through the station and then down to the planet's surface, Zixthera stayed exactly 3 steps behind Jake and Lisa. She wouldn't walk beside them no matter how many times they asked. When they offered her food, she waited until they ate first. When they sat down, she remained standing until Jake ordered her to sit. The colony was home to about 5,000 humans who had come to build a new life among the stars. They had farms, schools, workshops, and small factories. It was a peaceful place where everyone worked together to make their community better. Dr. Nathan Pierce, the colony's science officer, was fascinated by Zix. He was a tall, thin man who loved learning about new things. When Jake introduced him, Nathan immediately started asking questions about Veltari culture. "What were your people like before the Dominion?" Nathan asked. As they sat in his office, Zix looked uncomfortable. "We were weak. We were defeated. That is why we became slaves." "But what were you like before that?" Nathan pressed gently. "What did your people do? What did you build? What made you happy?" For a moment, something flickered in Zixtara's golden eyes. "We had ships that could dance between the stars. My grandmother told stories of when our people explored the galaxy, not to conquer, but to learn. We made music that could make people cry with joy." Then her expression became flat again. "But that was before we learned our place. The Dominion taught us that only the strong deserve to lead." Nathan wrote everything down carefully. "How long have your people been enslaved?" "3 generations. My grandmother was born free, but she died when I was small. My parents knew only slavery, and so do I." Jake felt angry hearing this, but he tried not to show it. "What happened to your homeworld?" "The Dominion keeps some of my people there too. Breed new workers. Others are scattered across their empire as soldiers and laborers. We are useful because we are strong and we follow orders without question." "But you're not just strong," Lisa said. "When Jake rescued you, you were flying a ship through an asteroid field while being chased. That takes incredible skill." Zixtara shook her head. "I was running like a coward. A true warrior would have fought to the death." "Sometimes running is the smart thing to do," Jake said. "Living to fight another day isn't cowardly, it's wise." Over the next few weeks, Zixtara slowly began to adapt to life in the colony. Lisa found her a small apartment, but every morning Zixtara would show up at Jake's door, ready to serve. She would cook his breakfast, clean his house, and try to anticipate his every need. Jake tried everything he could think of to make her stop. He cooked his own meals while she watched anxiously. He cleaned his own house while she fidgeted nearby, clearly wanting to help. He asked her to sit and relax, but she couldn't seem to understand the concept. The other colonists were curious about Zixtara, but respectful. Children would stare at her 4 arms and blue skin with wonder, but their parents taught them to be polite. Some adults tried to make friends with her, but Zixtara always assumed they wanted something from her. One day, space pirates attacked a supply convoy heading to New Terra. The colony's defense force was small and not very experienced. Jake was leading the defense when Zixtara appeared on the bridge of the defense station. "Commander, let me fight for you," she said. Jake was about to refuse, but then he saw something different in her eyes. For the first time since he had met her, Zixtara looked excited instead of scared. "Can you help coordinate our fighters?" Jake asked. Zixtara moved to the tactical display and studied it for just a few seconds. Then she started giving directions to the human pilots. Her voice was confident and clear as she told them where to go and when to attack. "Blue leader, swing around the big asteroid and hit their engines from behind. Red squadron, form up and hit their weapons while they're distracted. Green leader, stay back and protect the supply ships." The human pilots followed her directions, and within minutes the pirates were retreating. It was the most effective defense the colony had ever mounted. After the battle, Jake found Zixtara in the hangar, looking sad again. "That was incredible," Jake told her. "You saved those supply ships and maybe saved lives too." "I only did what you commanded," Zixtara said quietly, "but I didn't command anything specific. You made those tactical decisions. You saw the battle in a way none of us could." Zixtara looked uncomfortable. "The Dominion trained us to fight. It is just programming." Nathan had been listening to the conversation. "Zixtara, may I ask you something? When you were directing the battle, how did you feel?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I felt ... alive. Like I was remembering something important that I had forgotten." Then she shook her head. "But it does not matter. I am just a tool to be used. No, Jake said firmly. You're a person with incredible abilities. What you did today wasn't just following programming. You were creative and smart and brave. That night, Zixtera didn't come to Jake's apartment to clean or cook. Instead, she sat in her own apartment, staring out the window at the stars. For the first time in years, she tried to remember one of her grandmother's songs. The next morning, she still showed up at Jake's door ready to serve. But something had changed. When Jake asked her to sit and have breakfast with him instead of serving him, she hesitated for a long moment before sitting down. Tell me more about your grandmother's stories, Jake said as they ate. Zixtera's voice was soft when she spoke. She said our people once believed that every being in the universe had something beautiful to offer. We traveled to learn from others, not to conquer them. She paused. She said we sang songs to the stars and the stars sang back to us. What happened to those songs? Jake asked. The Dominion said they made us weak. They taught us new songs about obedience and service. Zixtera looked down at her hands. But sometimes, late at night, I can almost remember the old ones. Jake smiled. Maybe someday you'll remember them completely. For the first time since he had met her, Zix almost smiled back. 2 months after the pirate attack, Zixtera was starting to change. She still insisted on serving Jake, but now she would sometimes sit and eat with him instead of standing and waiting. She had even started talking to other colonists, though. She always introduced herself as Jake's property. Dr. Nathan Pierce had been recording everything. Zixtera told him about Veltari culture. He discovered that her people had once been great explorers and artists, not just warriors. They had built beautiful cities on dozens of worlds and created art that could make people feel emotions they had never felt before. Your people sound amazing, Nathan told her one afternoon as they sat in his office. They were explorers, artists, scientists, and yes, warriors too. But the Dominion only kept the warrior part. Zixtera nodded sadly. The Dominion said the other things made us weak. They destroyed our art and our books. They said only strength mattered. But you still remember some of it, Nathan said gently. The songs your grandmother taught you, the stories of dancing ships. That's not weakness, Zixtera. That's beauty. That same day, the colony's warning system started screaming. Lisa Rodriguez rushed to the command center where Jake was already studying the sensor readings. What he saw made his blood run cold. How many ships? Lisa asked. 15, Jake said grimly. All Dominion warships. They're big, Lisa. Much bigger than anything we have. Zixtera appeared at the door of the command center. When she saw the display, her face went pale. They have come for me, she whispered. A voice came through the communication system. It was cold and harsh, speaking in the same language the computer had learned to translate from human colony. This is Admiral Kexter of the Dominion Fleet. You are harboring stolen property that belongs to us. Return the Veltari slave immediately, and we will not destroy your pathetic settlement. Jake activated the communicator. This is Commander Jake Harrison. The being you call property is a free person under our protection. We will not hand her over to you. There was a pause, then laughter. You misunderstand your situation. Human, we have 15 warships. You have 3 small patrol boats and some mining equipment. Return our property, and we will give you advanced technology and safe passage away from this sector. She's not property, Jake said firmly, and we're not leaving. Admiral Kextar's voice became dangerous. Then you will all die for your foolishness. We will take the slave from your wreckage. The communication ended. Jake looked around the command center at his people. They were scared, but none of them suggested giving up Zixtera. We can't fight 15 warships, Lisa said quietly. No, Jake agreed. But we can make them regret coming here. Zix stepped forward, Commander. Please, I do not want your people to die for me. Let me go to them. It is better this way. Jake turned to face her. Zixtera, do you want to go back to being a slave? She was quiet for a long moment. No, she said finally. For the first time in my life, I do not want to be a slave. But I cannot let you all die. Then help us fight, Jake said. Not as my slave, but as our friend. The word friend seemed to surprise Zixtera. She had heard it before, but now it seemed to mean something different. The Dominion ships moved closer to the planet. They were huge, dark vessels covered in weapons. Each one was 10 times the size of the Liberty. Admiral Kextar's ship was the largest, shaped like a giant spear pointed at the colony. They're trying to talk to us again, Lisa reported. Admiral Kextar's face appeared on the main screen. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes that looked like empty holes. His species, the Krell, were the rulers of the Dominion Empire. I am curious about you humans, he said with a cold smile. Most species try to bargain when they meet us. They offer us resources or information in exchange for their lives. But you refuse to give us one worthless slave. Why? Jake stepped in front of the screen. Because we believe all thinking beings should be free. Because slavery is wrong. And because Zixtera is our friend, not your property. Admiral Kexter laughed. Friend, you barely know this creature. It was bred to serve, nothing more. Its entire species exists only to work for their betters. You're wrong, Jake said. Her people were explorers and artists. They created beautiful things and traveled the stars in peace. You destroyed their culture and made them slaves, but you couldn't destroy who they really are. The Admiral's expression changed. For the first time, he looked angry instead of amused. You know nothing about the Veltari. We civilized them. We gave them purpose. Before us, they were weak dreamers who wasted their time on useless pursuits. Zick stepped up beside Jake. You are the one who knows nothing, she said, her voice growing stronger. My grandmother told me stories of our ships that danced between the stars. We created music that could heal broken hearts. We built cities that floated on clouds and gardens that grew in the void of space. Lies, Admiral Kextar snarled. Your grandmother filled your head with fantasies. No, Zixtera said, and Jake could hear something new in her voice. Pride. She filled my head with memories, and I remember now. I remember who we were before you came. The Admiral's face twisted with rage. Enough! You have 1 hour to surrender the slave, or we will demonstrate why 17 species kneel before the Dominion. The screen went dark. Jake looked at Zixtera and saw that she was standing straighter than he had ever seen her. The defeated slave was gone, replaced by something that looked like a warrior. They enslaved 17 species. Zixtera asked. That's what he said, Jake confirmed. Then there are others like me, others who have forgotten who they were. Zixtera's golden eyes were bright with something Jake had never seen before. Hope. The next hour passed quickly. Jake organized the colony's defenses, which weren't much. They had 3 patrol ships, some mining lasers, and a lot of brave people with small weapons. Against 15 warships, it wouldn't be enough, but Zixtera had an idea. The Dominion relies on fear, she told Jake as they prepared for battle. They expect their enemies to panic and make mistakes, but what if we don't do what they expect? What do you mean? Jake asked. Their ships are big and powerful, but they're not built for fighting enemies who think differently. They're built for conquering planets and scaring people into giving up. Zixtera pointed at the display showing the Dominion fleet. Look how they're arranged. They're trying to look impressive, not tactical. Jake studied the formation. She was right. The ships were spread out in a line meant to intimidate, not to fight effectively. What do you suggest? He asked. We don't try to beat them in a straight fight. We make them angry and confused. We make them fight our way, not their way. When the hour was up, Admiral Kextar contacted them again. Have you come to your senses, humans? We've made our decision, Jake said. Zixtera stays free, and you leave our space. Then you will all die. The Dominion ships opened fire, but not at the colony. They targeted empty fields and abandoned buildings, trying to scare the humans into surrendering. It was exactly what Zixtera had predicted. Now, she said, the 3 human patrol ships launched from hidden positions. They didn't try to fight the big warships directly. Instead, they hit the Dominion ships with mining charges that stuck to their hulls and disrupted their sensors. The colony's ground-based lasers, meant for cutting rock, fired at the warship's communication arrays. Within minutes, the neat Dominion formation was broken. Ships were bumping into each other. Their communications were jammed, and they couldn't see clearly through the clouds of metal dust the mining charges had created. Impossible! Admiral Kextar's voice crackled through the static. You cannot defeat us! We are the Dominion. You're bullies, Jake replied, and bullies don't know what to do when someone fights back smart instead of fighting back scared. For the first time since Jake had met her, Zixtera smiled. A real smile, not the nervous expression of a slave trying to please her master. Remember another song my grandmother taught me? She said. It was about stars that fought back against the darkness. The battle was far from over, but something had changed. Zixtara was no longer a slave asking for protection. She was a free person fighting for her new home and her new friends. The battle around New Terra lasted for 6 hours. The Dominion ships had superior firepower, but Jake's crew and Zixtera's tactical knowledge kept them confused and frustrated. However, everyone knew this was only the beginning. Admiral Keck would not give up easily during a break in the fighting. Something unexpected happened. Captain Amy Foster, who had been monitoring communication channels, picked up a strange signal. Commander, I'm getting messages from all over the galaxy, Amy reported, her voice full of excitement. Word about our fight is spreading. Other species are hearing about it. Jake looked at the communication display. Messages were coming in from dozens of different sources. Most were in languages the computer couldn't translate yet, but the ones it could understand were amazing. This one is from a group calling themselves the Freeze and Die, Amy said. They say they heard about humans who refuse to let the Dominion take their friend. They want to know if it's true that some people still believe in freedom. Zixtera moved closer to the display. The Zendai were a peaceful people. The Dominion uses them as scientists and engineers because they are very smart. I thought they had all accepted their slavery. Another message came through. This one is from someone called Hivesinger Tizok of the Hivak Collective, Amy continued. They're asking if the humans really fight for beings they barely know. The Hivak are like insects, but they think together as one mind, Zixtera explained. The Dominion broke their collective and uses them as workers. If they're reaching out to us, it means some of them still remember what they used to be. Jake realized what was happening. Our fight isn't just about saving Zixtera anymore. It's showing other enslaved species that resistance is possible. Over the next few days, more messages arrived. Some were from individuals, others from small groups of rebels. A few were from entire hidden colonies of escaped slaves. Each message asked the same basic question. Was it true that someone was finally standing up to the Dominion? Dr. Nathan Pierce worked day and night to translate the messages and learn about the different species. What he discovered amazed everyone. The Zendai used to be master scientists who could manipulate gravity and time, Nathan reported. The Dominion only uses them to build weapons and ships. The Hivak used to share knowledge instantly across their entire species. They could solve problems in minutes that would take other people years. What about my people? Zixtera asked quietly. The Veltari were explorers and peacekeepers. You didn't just fight, you helped settle disputes between other species. You were diplomats and artists. The Dominion turned you into just soldiers, but that was never all you were. Zixtera listened carefully to everything Nathan said. Each piece of information seemed to unlock more memories. She began remembering songs, stories, and traditions that the Dominion had tried to erase. Meanwhile, Jake and his crew were planning their next move. They couldn't keep fighting the Dominion fleet forever, but they also couldn't let Admiral Kextar take Zixtera. We need to think bigger, Jake said during a strategy meeting. All these species reaching out to us, they're looking for hope. Maybe we can give them more than just hope. Lieutenant Ben Carter, who had become Jake's main tactical officer, looked up from his battle plans. What do you mean, Commander? What if we help them remember who they used to be? Like we're helping Zixtera remember. Amy Foster nodded slowly. If we could coordinate with these rebel groups, maybe we could cause problems for the Dominion all across their empire. But how do we reach them? Lisa Rodriguez asked. The Dominion controls all the communication networks. Zixtera had been quiet during the discussion, but now she spoke up. There might be a way. The Veltara used to have hidden communication networks for emergencies. If any of those networks still exist, we could use them to reach other species. Do you know how to access them? Jake asked. I think so. My grandmother taught me some of the old codes when I was very young. I thought they were just games, but now I think they were real. Working together, Zixtera and Nathan managed to activate an ancient Veltari communication network. It was weak and incomplete, but it could reach across the galaxy without the Dominion detecting it. The first real contact they made was with a group of escaped Zendai living on a hidden asteroid base. Their leader was a scientist named Dr. Yin, who had been pretending to be a loyal slave for 20 years while secretly helping others escape. We thought we were alone. Dr. Yinthera said when they established contact, "We have been trying to develop weapons to fight the Dominion, but we are scientists, not warriors." "You don't need to be warriors," Jake told him. "You need to be yourselves. What can the Zendai do that no one else can? We can manipulate space and time in small ways. We can make things that seem impossible to other species. Then help us make the impossible happen," Jake said. Next, they contacted the HFY Collective. The connection was strange because it was like talking to thousands of minds at once, but also like talking to one person. "We remember the time before," the HFY said. "We remember when we were whole. The Dominion separated us to make us weak, but some connections remain. Can you reconnect with your people across the galaxy?" Zixtera asked. "Some of us, yes. The Dominion cannot break all the links. We can share knowledge instantly across great distances. Then help us share the knowledge of freedom," Jake said. One by one, they contacted more groups. Each species had abilities that the Dominion used, but also feared. The Veltari were natural leaders and tacticians. The Zendai were brilliant scientists. The HFY could coordinate massive operations instantly, but it was Zixtera who came up with the real plan. "The Dominion's power comes from making us forget who we are," she said during a planning session. "They keep us separated and make us believe we are weak. But what if we reminded everyone of their true heritage at the same time?" "How?" Jake asked. "Each species has cultural memories that the Dominion couldn't completely erase. Songs, stories, traditions. If we could broadcast these memories to every member of each species simultaneously, it might wake them up." Amy Foster looked excited. "A galaxy-wide broadcast of cultural memory? That's brilliant! But how do we reach everyone?" Dr. Yin's voice came through the communication system. "The Zendai have been mapping the Dominion's communication network for years. We could overload it and broadcast on all frequencies at once, and the HFY can coordinate the timing," added the collective voice. "We can make sure the broadcast reaches every world at exactly the same moment." "What about the content?" Nathan asked. "How do we get the cultural memories of 17 different species?" Zixtera smiled. "We ask them to remember. Each rebel group we contact, we ask them to share their most important songs and stories. Then we broadcast all of it together. Over the next week, something amazing happened. Rebel groups from across the galaxy began sharing their cultural treasures. The Zendai sent mathematical poems that described the beauty of curved space. The HFY shared memory songs that contained the wisdom of millions of minds. Other species sent art, music, stories, and traditions. Zixtera worked with Nathan to record Veltari war songs, exploration chants, and the lullabies her grandmother had taught her. As she sang them, other colonists gathered to listen. Even though they couldn't understand the words, the music made them feel emotions they couldn't name. "These songs are about hope," Zixtera explained. "About traveling to new worlds, not to conquer them, but to learn from them. About finding friends among the stars." Jake watched as his friend transformed. The broken slave who had begged to serve him was gone. In her place was a proud warrior poet who sang songs of freedom to the stars. "Are you ready?" Jake asked as they prepared for the galaxy-wide broadcast. Zixtera nodded. "For the first time in my life, I know exactly who I am. I am Zixtera of the Veltari, daughter of explorers, keeper of songs, and friend to all who choose freedom over slavery. Then let's remind the galaxy who they used to be." Jake said. The broadcast was scheduled to begin in 1 hour. Across the galaxy, enslaved species would hear the voices of their ancestors calling them home. The galaxy-wide broadcast began at exactly the same moment on every Dominion world. Jake stood in the command center of New Terra, watching as their plan unfolded across the stars. Beside him, Zixtara sang ancient Veltari songs into the communication system, her voice carrying across space to reach her enslaved people. The Zendai broadcast is starting, Dr. Nathan Pierce reported from his station. They're sending mathematical poetry about the beauty of the universe. On the main screen, they could see data streaming in from rebel groups across the galaxy. The HFY Collective was coordinating everything, making sure each species' cultural memories reached their people at the right time. Admiral Kextar's fleet was still orbiting New Terra, but the Dominion ships seemed confused. Their communication systems were being overloaded by the massive broadcast, and they couldn't stop it. Admiral Kextar is trying to contact us, Amy Foster announced. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, and for the first time, he looked worried instead of angry. What are you doing, humans? Our communication networks across the Empire are being disrupted. We're helping people remember who they are, Jake said simply. You cannot wake the slaves, Admiral Kextar snarled. They have been conditioned for generations. They know their place. Zixtara stepped forward, still singing softly under her breath. No, Admiral, they remember their place, and their place is not under your boots. As if to prove her point, reports started coming in from across the galaxy. On the Zendai homeworld, slaves had stopped working and were singing mathematical equations that described freedom. On HFY colonies, the separated insect people were reconnecting their minds and remembering what it felt like to think as one. It's working, Nathan said, his voice full of amazement. We're getting reports from dozens of worlds. People are remembering, but Admiral Kextar was not giving up. Even if some slaves rebel, we still have the strongest military in the galaxy. We will crush these uprisings and make the survivors wish they had stayed obedient. You might be able to crush 1 or 2 rebellions, Jake admitted, but can you crush them all at the same time? The answer came faster than anyone expected. Dominion warships across the galaxy found themselves facing coordinated attacks from species they had thought were broken. Zendai scientists used their knowledge of space and time to make Dominion weapons miss their targets. HFY workers shut down the factories and power plants they had been forced to operate. Veltari's soldiers remembered they were warriors, not just tools, and turned their weapons on their masters. Impossible, Admiral Kextar whispered as reports flooded in. This cannot be happening. It's happening because you made a mistake, Zixtara told him. You thought breaking our spirits would make us weak, but spirits can heal. You thought destroying our cultures would make us forget, but memories can return. You thought separating us would keep us powerless, but friendship can cross any distance. On the screen, they could see the Admiral's fleet beginning to retreat from New Terra. Other Dominion ships across the galaxy were doing the same, falling back to their core worlds as rebellions erupted everywhere. Jake felt a hand on his shoulder. Zixtara was looking at him with those golden eyes, but now they were bright with joy instead of fear. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? Jake asked. For showing me that true strength isn't about ruling others. It's about helping them find their own strength. The broadcasts continued for 3 days. Each day, more enslaved peoples remembered who they had been before the Dominion came. The Veltari recalled their songs of exploration and peace. The Zendai rediscovered their love of pure knowledge. The HFY rebuilt their collective consciousness and shared their wisdom freely again. But it wasn't just about remembering the past. Each species began to imagine new futures for themselves. Futures where they were free to be whatever they wanted to be. Jake watched as Zixtara worked with rebel leaders from across the galaxy, coordinating their efforts and sharing tactical knowledge. She had become what Jake had always seen in her, a natural leader who brought out the best in others. She's not following your orders anymore, Lisa Rodriguez observed as they watched Zixtara command a virtual war room full of different species. She never should have been following my orders in the first place, Jake replied. She was always meant to lead. 2 weeks after the broadcast began, the Dominion Empire started to collapse. Without their enslaved workers, their economy failed. Without their enslaved soldiers, their military crumbled. Without their enslaved scientists, their technology stopped advancing. Admiral Kextar made one last attempt to contact New Terra when his face appeared on screen. He looked exhausted and defeated. "This is not over," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Yes, it is," Zixtera replied. "Your empire was built on stolen strength. When we take back our strength, you have nothing left. What will you do with us?" the Admiral asked. Jake was surprised by the question. "What do you mean? When you conquer our worlds, what will you do with the Krail people?" Zixtera and Jake looked at each other. Neither had thought about conquest. That wasn't what this rebellion was about. "We don't want to conquer anyone," Jake said. "We want everyone to be free to choose their own path." Even us, Admiral Kexter seemed genuinely confused. "Even you," Zixtera confirmed. "Freedom means freedom for everyone, even people we don't like. But it also means you can't force others to serve you anymore." 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting the former Dominion capital world. The station was a marvel of cooperative engineering, built by teams from 17 different species working together. Zixtera found him there, looking out at the stars. She had been elected as the first president of the Galactic Freedom Alliance, a new organization dedicated to preventing any species from enslaving another. "The Zendai want to share their time manipulation technology with everyone," she reported, the Hivacker offering to help coordinate trade between different worlds. "Even some of the former Dominion species are asking to join the alliance." "What about your people?" Jake asked. "What do the Veltari want to do?" Zixtera smiled. "We want to explore again. We want to find new worlds and new friends among the stars. But this time, we want to do it together with others, not alone." Jake nodded. "That sounds perfect." "There's something else," Zixtera said. "I've been thinking about what I said when you first rescued me, about serving you forever." Jake felt a moment of worry. "Zixtera, you don't owe me anything." "I know," she said, "but I realize now what I really meant. I didn't want to serve you as a slave serves a master. I wanted you to aid me from behind, to support me while I found my own way. And I wanted to do the same for you." "Like friends do," Jake said. "Like friends do," Zixtera agreed. "True friendship is when people choose to support each other, not when one person owns another." As they watched, a ship launched from the planet below. It was a Veltari exploration vessel, the first one built in 3 generations. Its mission was to search for new worlds where different species could live together in peace. "Where will you go first?" Jake asked. "Everywhere," Zixtera said with a laugh. "The galaxy is huge, and there's so much to see and learn. But wherever we go, we'll remember that every world belongs to the people who live there, not to anyone who wants to conquer it." Jake thought about how much had changed since that day when he first heard Zixtera's desperate plea for help. She had asked him to aid her from behind, and in the end, that's exactly what he had done. He had supported her while she found her own strength and remembered who she was meant to be. "Thank you, Jake," Zixtera said one more time. "Thank you, too," Jake replied. "You taught me that sometimes the best way to help someone is to believe in them until they can believe in themselves." Together, they watched the stars and planned the future of a galaxy where every being would be free to choose their own destiny. The age of slavery was over. The age of friendship had begun.